Hello, everyone. Today I would like to discuss how I built my new song, Cavalier. Sure, all of you have heard it by now. If you haven't, make sure to check it out on iTunes. It's quite stellar. It's one of my best works so far as an artist. I'm very proud of it. I'm sure that if you listen to it, you would understand why. It's a very lovely song. Here is the original project file from the song. Haven't made any other project files, but this is where I compiled samples that I got from splice.com, which is an audio library that's royalty free as long as you pay a subscription. I use the samples to create the song, and the interface on their website is very intuitive. It helps you grab samples that work well together, but you have to figure out what you're going to make, and that's very involved. You could be waiting on there for months trying to figure out the perfect idea to make a hit song, and it looks like I struck gold here, no pun intended. And then I'll get into the backstory of why I created the song. Obviously, it's a homage to the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are having a historic regular season right now. They're number one in the Eastern Conference. And the song isn't to take away anything from the Cavaliers or to distract or detract from them. The Cavaliers were already the most successful team in the NBA before I made this song. They had a 16-game winning streak. They had beaten the best teams in the entire league in games during the regular season already before I designed this song. So it wasn't to steal their thunder, is what some people have been suggesting. No, it's not to steal their thunder. It's just to have fun times being a Cavaliers fan. There's a lot of competitive banter between some of the fan bases in the NBA. And in Cincinnati, I know this is in Cleveland. I made a minor reference to that in my song, which I'll get into in just a moment. But Cincinnati gets every single Cleveland Cavaliers game on basic cable. So if you're in Cincinnati, why not be a Cleveland Cavaliers fan? I know there are numerous other NBA teams you will want to watch and follow, but at the same time, the Cavs are in the beautiful state of Ohio. They're also one of the best NBA teams in the past 10 years. So there's no reason not to like the Cleveland Cavaliers right now. They're a very stellar basketball organization. So I'd just like to explain a few tidbits as to how I designed the song, what I was going for, what I wanted to evoke by making it, and also to dispel some of the rumors about it. So, without further ado, let's play the beginning of the song. Caution to the wind. My apologies, please, if that's a sin. Where do I begin? If it's ever on me, I'm going in. As of late, I'm feeling great. Is it fate? Tell me, is it worth the wait? Cause I won't hesitate. I know all in due time I'm gonna get mine. And I know it takes time, but I won't take my time. I'm so Cavalier. I'm so Cavalier. I'm so Cavalier. I'm so Cavalier. I know. Any this begin? Life's a journey, but the journey starts within. Okay. As you can hear, and some of you have already heard this song before. In fact, so many of you might have already. I've been playing it around town, and it's been doing very well online from what other people are telling me. So, without further ado, I would like to explain the thought process and like grabbing the stems and then trying to build something impactful using them. The very first thing that made me want to build this song is finding sort of the key track stem, the stem from which all the other stems flow forth from. And on this project, it was just this guitar sample. In fact, weeks before I even set out to build the song, wrote the lyrics or anything, I was listening to the guitar sample with a collection of other stems, and it sounded so gorgeous, absolutely phenomenal. I thought, wow, if I was going to write anything with this, what would I write? And I know the intense value of finding something that sounds extremely enjoyable in musicianship and in music itself. So obviously, finding a stem like this is like striking gold to begin with. But you don't want to bobble the project once you get something high value like this. As you can hear, here's what it sounds like with the drums muted. Isn't that insanity? I love the switch up on the tail end of the guitar sample where you can start to hear overtones, what sounds like another guitar playing underneath, which it might just be the same guitarist playing by himself the entire time. But the way he's plucking the notes, he's actually playing a not a poly rhythm, but a poly melody or chords, chord, like polytonality. It's actually stunning how he's creating these different notes while playing the same strumming or masking different strumming by bringing in the different notes. But either way, I'm not a guitarist or anything, but I just thought that sounded absolutely bananas. So from there, I wanted to create the entire song using this guitar part in a way where it would showcase the guitar part prominently, but it wouldn't be just all about the guitar and not exciting, but at the same time, just to get something that's like crack cocaine, that's like, I don't do crack, but at the same time, I could imagine what crack cocaine would be like. Not that you should do crack cocaine, it's a felony, so obviously don't do crack cocaine, but something that's like striking gold, because every other sample on the instrumental needed to sound high grade or need to mesh with it so that it all sounds sublime. So from the start, we already had a sample that was making sure this song was going to be a hit. And let's just play it one more time. I know at the beginning I sort of mask it with the drums, but you need to listen to this guitar part seriously, because that's what truly beautiful songs are made of. Just little things like this. Please, if that's a sin, where do I begin? If it's ever on me, I'm going in. Now let's get to the drums that I sort of use at the beginning. Here's the first drums that start. They're in both ears. And the second drums come in. Now isolate them here. So together they sound like this. Other parts that come in, like right here, this part. And I'm sort of laid back with my instrumentation just so that my vocals are prominent and are well heard throughout the entire song. Sometimes I use advanced layering through the beginning sections of the song. Like I might have like in some cases over 20 different stems that come in, some cases more than 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 that come in during the first verse because I'm not singing as much, or maybe I just make it an instrumental with a drop instead with more of a build up. But it actually works making the verses quiet and then having a rioting section, which sounds like a healthy contrast and builds interest in the song as it goes through. I thought this was one of the biggest moments of my singing career, let alone my producing career. It's just operating on every level. It's clicking on all cylinders. Here's another spot. And here's the other ear, as you can see. As you can see, this is in the left ear. You can see left and right. At the top is the left ear, the bottom is the right ear. So as you can see here, the top's empty, the bottom's the right ear. So this plays in the left ear. And then this plays in the right ear. So if you have headphones, you can hear contrast. It's a little subtle. And on other songs, I exaggerate using the stereo capabilities of like headphones, stereos, car stereos, radios. But at the same time, it's only to add texture, to add sort of a clarity to the sound, separating and isolating things into one ear, as opposed to having it all run through the same monaural channels in both the left and right ears. So that's just something to think about. And then this is in both ears. I'm sure you recognize this from somewhere. Find me where you know me. And of course, there's a crescendo, and let me zoom in on that. As you can see, it starts very quietly here in crescendos and adds suspense. Other artists were lambasting certain forms and genres of music for never using fade ins. They would use fade outs. They would fade out a song to silence or fade out parts on a song to silence. But for whatever reason, they were noticing that nobody's using a fade in on any song. I use them all the time. That's one of the secrets to my music. I build crescendos instead of just having blanket loud throughout the entire song, which I don't think sounds dated. I try and build crescendos in a modern way with modern sensibilities. So I'll still have like loud parts, even at parts of a song that don't have as much instrumentation. But at the same time, I try and build crescendos much like classical music, instead of just making my song blanket loud as possible. And a lot of EDM songs do the same thing. They'll have at the beginning with plenty of instrumentation, it'll be loud, but when it gets really, really, really loud, like say the drops, a secret to doing that, which I'll explain later as well. But as you can sense, here's where it crescendos, and so let's unmute all of it. And also this part, the violin part, crescendos in earlier. And that's meant to be in the right ear. As you can see, it's only in the right ear and not in both ears. So that's another cool effect that I wrote for the song. A lot of people wanted me to talk about the drops on this song, the extended second drop, and my rationale as to why I made the first drop really short. So I'll begin to do that right now. I made the first drop, a little baby one, a little short one, sort of as a teaser, so that the second drop could come by surprise. It's a really heavy major drop that I've created. It's one of the biggest drops I've ever heard of. I've listened to all the other artists, so I know what I'm talking about. But at the same time, the reason why it's short at the beginning is because instead of trying to sound like every other song that makes standard drops and they all sound the same and they're carefully packaged to all sound the exact same and exact formulae to make sure that every song sounds exact, I try to do something different instead. So instead of making the first drop a standard 32 bar drop, I make it short. Then I make a huge extendo drop at the end with even more instrumentation as a sort of surprise and also as an exclamation point on my second verse and first verse. As you can see, the short drop on the first ending sort of ties both of my verses together, which makes the second drop after I'm done singing more impactful. To design this was like a wet dream. It's a dream come true, but at the same time, I'm respectful of all the other basketball organizations, and we'll see what happens with the NBA. But at the same time, this was a fun song to make. Now let's get into the second drop. As you can see, the instrumentation for the second drop is very similar. You have the string part right here that comes in early. You have the same parts left and right ear, here and here. Then you also have this part which comes in later, this part which comes in later, and then this part which comes in right on the downbeat. As you can see, there's no crescendo in. It just takes us by surprise. Just to listen to it, you can sort of hear why it's and that's only halfway through it. It's actually 4 16-bar choruses, so 64 bars. And I used to be a rapper, so this is definitely flow heavy. It's one of my best flows. I'm a producer now, so producers talk about flows, but this is one of my best pieces of work. Sounds absolutely effervescent in my opinion. To deconstruct it, basically we were looking to make a drop that sounded impactful, exciting. And at the last minute, we found this part. Well, I found this part. I was working by myself. So this part pretty much saved the entire song. I'll let it run by itself so you can hear why this part's so important. This part, which adds accentuation to the subwoofer throughout the entire loud dance section. This part saved me a ton of fuss and trouble finding. To compose something like this in a dream, but they had the sample. I found it on there, so Long story short, it saved my project. You could listen to it without that part, with just this muted, in case I just never stumbled upon it. It will sound like this. Now, does that sound sort of off? Let's listen to it let's listen to it with both. And as you can see, both the channeling from the left and right ear in the first verse remain. So these two extra parts, along with this part, still remain on the second drop. So adding this to it makes it more suspenseful and exciting. Not including that on the first verse makes it come by surprise, which adds to the suspense. And also, these two parts that come in add to the sheer volume. Since this part's already cranking up the volume like crazy, these two parts, which crescendo in, and one in just the left ear and one in just the right ear, sort of add to it without you being able to notice anything other than the intensity continuing and driving throughout the entire dance sequence. This was one of the most fun drops I've made. It's probably the longest, well, not the longest one. I made longer drops than this. Definitely that. I made Phantom, Millennium Swap Climax, Rumble. So it's not like this is the longest drop I've ever done, but I mean, making EDM has been a very enriching experience because I do get to design some of the most extravagant, some of the most beautiful moments in music that I've ever described. So I guess we owe a lot to the genre EDM for pioneering and making impactful, loud moments where the instrumentation is very futuristic. It's not always computerized, but I mean, it's definitely the pinnacle, the apex of modern sound. It's what we're going for here. It's not that the instrumentation, and I could show you some instruments we used. Here's where the drop begins. This is violin, crescendo in. Then we add this to it. We add this to it. We add this Now let's listen to these parts individually so you can start to understand what I was talking about, where they have to be the apex, futuristic soundscapes to make it as an EDM drop or as material for the impactful moments of an EDM set. that's not all that went into this drop. There are some drums. Here's the first drum section, which I showed on another video, just teasing how they sort of work together. But I mean, these drums are supposed to sound like a heartbeat that's beating fast. It comes in after the initial shock of the drop. Then it shifts to another drums that evokes someone riding a horse, like the photo in the album cover. There's the second drums, which start right here, and you can sort of hear the spur of the horse. That's what I was going for there. So yeah, that's how I designed this drop. The Cavaliers are doing really well right now. They just won their last game. I know they lost 3 in a row, but at the same time, they're neck and neck with the Thunder. Both those teams are trying to force each other to win almost every game. So we'll see how the Cavs perform during the rest of their season. So good luck to them. And obviously, I wrote this for them, so I hope they like it. One last thing, let's talk about the verses, which I know I didn't spend that much time talking about the verses, but a lot goes into a song other than just the singing, and obviously it would be quite a task to record each and every of these samples, and they were all recorded by others. I just arranged each, wrote for each, and then built a song with each. So it wasn't just me who helped design this song, though. The other composers submitted these, let me use them free of charge, royalty free. So kudos to them, and I've shared some of these samples with you. So some of you who saw them could have used them for whatever project you wanted. Free for anyone who has a splice.com subscription to use. But here's what the verses sound like by themselves. Caution to the wind, my apologies, please, if that's a sin. Where do I begin? If it's ever on me, I'm going in. As of late, I'm feeling great. Is it fate? Tell me, is it worth the wait? Cause I won't hesitate. I know all in due time I'm gonna get mine. And I know it takes time, but I won't take my time. I'm so Cavalier. I'm so Cavalier, I'm so Cavalier, I'm so Cavalier, I know. Isn't that neat? Here's the second verse, and we'll just start right here. Because I won't take my time. I'm so Cavalier. I'm so Cavalier. I'm so Cavalier. I'm so Cavalier, I know. So, what I was going for while I recorded these verses was just, instead of having a memory that was already learned before I sang the verses, I went ahead and wrote both verses, the first and second verse. Then I improvised the melody while I recorded, and since it takes a little bit longer because other people figured out I was recording and wanted to sabotage my recording session. So through the wire, I recorded this. Well, they bullied me, but at the same time, I got the footage, so the song came out. But either way, I recorded this by improvising it, which means making up portions of the recording of my voice on the spot. So instead of like writing out a melody, picking out the notes beforehand and memorizing them, I just tried to come up with the notes on the spot, which is a jazz technique. It's called improvisation. So I did that for the first and second verse, which the parts I'm most proud of were. But I won't take my time. I'm so later in the song where I got to embellish. Embellish means to add advanced techniques to your singing or to your musicianship. You're playing an instrument to make more impactful moments in your music. So where I got to embellish was as I'm singing I'm So Cavalier over and over again. There's 4 times on the first verse, 4 times on the second verse. I had to embellish, and that's where the variety and the notation and the embellishment is what really makes my verses shine through. So, as you can hear, I won't take my time. I'm so Cavalier. I'm so Cavalier. I'm so Cavalier. I'm so Now let's skip to the second verse, and you can hear the embellishments change from the first to the second verse. I'm so low. 3, 2, 1, get it! Others were trying to make fun of me, claiming that the drop on this song evoked sort of the thunder, swagger jacking, and renegading my song, claiming that they're thunder and we're lightning, but the thunder sounds so great. No, this is not thunder. If you've listened to what actual thunder sounds like, it doesn't sound sweet and romantic and mystical like this song saluting the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is more music instead of just loud banging noises. But at the same time, Thunder fans who try to sneak diss me for making this keep taunting me, thinking that if they claim that this is Thunder, maybe they could sort of renegade, swagger jack, belittle our song. The song is entitled Cavalier. There's not anything to it that's about Thunder. And even if the Thunder have a better record than us currently after a few games this past week, it won't mean that the Thunder are better than us in the long run, is what we're hoping. I've heard that the Cavaliers wanted to test out being behind the Thunder so that they don't have to play every game in front, and then they could try the Thunder's own strategy of camping behind the Cavaliers in the win-loss column, playing the Thunder for home court advantage by making them play as hard as they can to continue keeping home court advantage until the Thunder get tired. But at the same time, these are just meta strategies in basketball. I'm only making a song. We can all tune in to watch what would actually happen during the course of the NBA season. And it's riveting, fun, fan, and family fun action. So hopefully y'all tune in to what's going on in the NBA. If you're a Celtics fan, Rockets fan, and all the other teams, well, there's some hope for your teams to win the championship too. So I'm not trying to belittle any team. Even if you're a Thunder fan, yes, you could win as well. So I'm not hating on the Thunder. It's just I'm a Cavaliers fan. This is just for us Cavaliers fans. So if you would like to listen to the song, please check it out and catch me on the flip side. Thank you all and have a nice day.